Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh. Today's episode is a playback, a replay of a conversation that I had with Daniel Adkins. He had me on his podcast, and there was some good value there, and I thought that you may appreciate it. So I thought that I might just share it with you. This is a recording from his podcast, so some of the things might not make the same amount of sense as it would normally make with me asking all the questions instead of answering questions. But it's nice to have a little change up of things from time to time. If you notice, my voice is a little bit off. I lost my voice last week. I was at an event, coaching event, and it's always wild at those events. It's with CEO Warrior, and so I'm just starting to get my voice back. With that being said, also I want to mention that this episode is brought to you by My Easy Install. Last week we talked with Chris Rush, and I shared that episode. I got a lot of great feedback on that. A lot of people said they would try out My Easy Install. It's a great program, and it's growing. And as more manufacturers come on board, it'll grow even more. But it's a nice, the way that I describe it is it gets rid of some of that pass-through income, so that cash flow that ties up whenever you're doing change-outs, it gets rid of that. So it's really good for people who are just starting out and don't have a lot of cash in the bank to pay for materials and parts and everything for a change-out. And then it guarantees you a lot of work too. So it helps you as My Easy Install grows. It's going to a lot more work's going to develop that way. It's going to, until you've figured out your marketing strategy and your branding yourself. I think that it's gonna help out a lot. If you have any questions about it, go to myeasyinstall.com. That's the letter E, the letter Z, install.com. And then there's a link at the top right, and that's where you go to sign up for the program. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is tersh@icebound.us. And then also, don't forget, take a screenshot of this episode and share it on social media. Share it on your stories, Instagram, Facebook, and tag me in it. And I'll be sure to share it too and give you a follow. But also listen to that episode. I think it's episode 413. Listen to that and check out. There's a lot of information in that conversation that I had with Chris. But anyways, with that being said, let's get started with today's episode, and let me know what you think.
All right, what's up, homies, and welcome to this early morning episode of Live. This time with Tersh Blissett. He is the host of the Service Business Mastery Podcast. Look, this podcast has been going on for 2 years. There's well over 400 episodes. He's got a 4.5-star ranking, 121 reviews. We're going to have to get that number up. Some of y'all got to go and review this guy. If I hold it just the angle, you can see. That's what the podcast looks like. Y'all need to go and do a review after this podcast. After this live, you will have every reason to go and listen to this guy's podcast. And if you like it, you got to give the guy a good review, because 121 for 2 years, man, we got to help you. We got to get you some more reviews on that thing, baby.
Heck yeah.
But so, hey, you are a tried and true home service pro, and you've got this podcast. You've got several businesses. I'm honored to have you in here to talk to us. I think this is going to be a freestyle, like question, answer, chat until we run out of time. As always, if anybody has anything in the group that they want to post a question, comment, concern, I'll try to see if I can, say those out loud here, and we can just handle them all, man. But welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. Totally honored. I appreciate the invitation to come on the podcast.
Absolutely.
So I guess a little bit about me. I've been in the industry since 2005. I'm in the air conditioning industry. That's my bread and butter. That's what I really know. And I started out at a local service company after getting out of the Air Force, and then I worked my way up from a install helper to a service technician to the service manager to general manager, and then got my business license and started my own business. In 2014, I started a business, and we were growing between 90 and 120% year over year. Well, then in 2017, I started the podcast, and a lot of listeners were just asking about how I did it. And so in 2018, I started Icebound, another air conditioning company, which competes with the original company that I started in 2014, just so that
In the
people
same
could follow
marketplace.
along. Yep, same marketplace, different avatars, so different target audiences, and I did that on purpose so that I could try and uh, I really wanted. I know high volume, low margin companies and business. So we did a lot. We did 4,500 property management houses, and I knew how to do that. I knew how to tackle that market and grow in that market, but I didn't really know like your higher end, affluent owner occupieds. So that's why I started the other business and did.
Gotcha.
That's my target audience there.
Well, that's really cool, man. So I don't know how much you know about my background, but I've been in this group trying to. I've said the same thing over and over. So for me, I started actually. I went into the industry of air conditioning
Mm-hmm.
in a distribution warehouse. I started in the warehouse, unloading trucks and
Yeah.
putting stuff in the warehouse, and then worked my way into where I was dealing with the contractors and putting their orders in the system and making all that stuff come together,
Mm-hmm.
and to the point where I became a consultant. And then consulting is outside sales. I was a rep for American Standard Air Conditioning, and I was a rep for Rude. I've been a rep for parts and supply houses, and financing option. There's been a lot of positions in the business to business world
Mm-hmm.
that specifically speak to home service pros that I've held. So I've created like this hybrid B to HSP. So
Yeah.
B2B with a concentration of home service pros is where I've spent my time. And so what I've noticed throughout my time, I did commercial sales for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and that commercial sales took all this new construction projects and these 55 um, track homes, basically we called them.
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
go in and you'd quote like X amount, and it's super low margin, high volume work, and it was like, man, it's so tight margin. Something goes wrong, you lose your ass on the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Then and then I looked at the commercial side, and then I went over even into um, looking at some of this residential new construction. And when I started selling Rude, it was high efficiency, change outs and all that stuff. So we have a pretty well parallel there, but my view is from the distribution side. So I'm sure we could
That's
probably.
really cool. And so your American Standard, that was your like you were selling like the 14 SEER American Standards, and then like once you went to Rude, that's whenever you went to higher efficiency.
Well, so I had access to high efficiency while I was
Right.
selling American Standard, but
Mm-hmm.
my job when I was working for American Standard selling their equipment
Mm-hmm.
was the commercial sales manager. And
I
as the
got you.
commercial sales manager, what I ended up quoting were these new construction
Yeah.
projects. So they never wanted the high efficiency stuff on those projects, which are the ones I quoted.
Mm-hmm.
Other stuff, the territory managers, which I was eventually that role for Rude,
Gotcha.
where
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
would go out and I would do that. So
Yep.
I worked over towards that higher efficiency side. So American Standard had high efficiency
Oh yeah.
equipment,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and it was there, but it just wasn't what I was doing at the time.
Yeah, I went out to Tyler, Texas. We're train
Awesome.
dealers, so yeah, that's a crazy warehouse and
Yeah,
everything.
it's
That
cool, man.
it is. It's amazing the way that they the assembly line and the way that they can make an American Standard and train right next to each other, and it's
Mhm.
like they're literally the exact same thing with different powder coating on them. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a really cool
it's
process.
super cool. Yeah, and so there was a period of time when I was doing it where there was a top on the train that had like
Oh
a
yeah, that leaf
significant
guard.
difference, right? So that made the difference in everyone. But yeah, definitely. And then so Rude is very similar. Rude and Ream are in the same plant together as our American Standard train. And there's only really I don't know, of course, there's only a handful of actual manufacturers.
Right, right.
There's a bunch of brands and so forth. But yeah, man, we have tight paths there. So
Yeah, that's really cool.
where did you where along your route did you decide that you were going to go and start a podcast?
Honestly, I was listening to podcasts. So my wife and I, we moved an hour away from where our office was,
Mhm.
and because we got 250 acres, and so I started listening at first. Like for the first couple months, I was listening to the radio, but then it was like the same three or four songs were played along the whole hour long route. So then I started listening to different podcasts, and I started with like Entree Leadership, the Dave Ramsey podcast.
Yes.
And
I know
so
that.
then I'd hear an interview on there, and I'd say, "Oh, I want to check out." And that person might have a podcast. I want to check out their podcast. And then I listened to the E Myth Revisited, and so I started listening to a lot of books on tape, and then I was like searching their podcast and stuff like that. And I kind of got stuck in a rabbit hole of just like, let's get all the podcast stuff I can get. And then I started getting like social media marketing world, the guys out in California and all this stuff. And I was like, just really diving deep into stuff, and almost obsession into podcasting. And then I found an HVAC technicians podcast called HVAC School.
Mhm.
With Brian Orr, and I started listening to that and like giving him feedback, and really just I dove deep into his entire world. And then he was like, I'd like to start a network and have a business podcast, and then like my technical podcast, and then there was a couple other ones. One's called HVAC Shop Talk, and then Tool Pros podcast. So they just talked about tools, and so we kind of started this little network, and it was basically so that Brian could teach all of us, and then we could like bounce ideas off of each other and learn and grow ourselves. Since then, we split up the network only because it was to the point to where like we were all pretty even. Like there wasn't a whole lot we were giving each other at that point. So then it was just like we're in a network, but we're not really in a network. So we were like, it's probably we'll just dissolve it, and like we're all still really good friends, and we all hang out all the time. But so now I do my own thing, and I help other people that want to learn how to podcast. We have a local network of podcasters that they just like want to get into. Somebody wants to get into podcasting, don't know how to do it, and so we just help them out. Like these are the entry level steps, and then move along. It's really
Sweet,
it's
man.
it's a great process. It's extremely affordable way to get your message out there.
Yeah, well, so I'm definitely interested. Where did I put my? It's the craziest thing. I lost my mouse. Anyway, how the heck do I? Yeah. Yeah, I've got basically this group that I created. So I'll walk you through how I created
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah.
right? So I I started in the business of selling air conditioning equipment, and it's a rough business, man. You'd go knocking doors, and like the big boys that could buy a bunch of equipment, right? A couple of things would happen there. First, you knock on the door, and their marketing is intertwined. Their installers know how to install, their technicians know how to work on, and their sales reps know how to sell one brand of equipment. And
Yes.
they move a bunch of those boxes, and you're envious. You're like, man, how do I get that business? And one of two things happens: either you can get that business and you can lose it as quickly as you get it because there's no loyalty,
Right.
or you're not even going to get in the door because the owner of the company has a relationship with the rep over at Goodman or wherever it is. And so I set out to go and build those types of relationships from the ground up. And it
Okay.
was like, okay, how do I figure that out? Because when I was working on the counter, John would come in, and he's having a rough day. He can't figure out how to make his business like grow.
Yeah.
And his chief complaint is every winter he's got to lay everybody off because he doesn't have any work.
Yep.
I'm like, man, business is tough, right? And
Mhm.
then Jim comes in, he's happy, he's loving business, right? And Jim's like, yeah, well, I've had that problem, John, whatever. And, uh, through me says, you gotta put a maintenance agreement program in place so that you have those maintenances to do through the wintertime.
Mhm.
And I'd go back over and tell John, well, look, here's what I think you ought to do. And then like that process was more meaningful to me than any part of my career at this point, right? Like, so there was the money's
Yeah.
cool, it's not that important. The ability to watch somebody build a business and feel like empowered to like,
Uh-huh.
this is their business, and to be empowered to continue on that path meant more to me than any of the money or any of that. So, I set out to help business owners grow their business. And I figure if I take a guy that's young who wants to build a business and I help him channel his efforts into what turns into one of these big companies in the marketplace. But
Hmm.
I've been there the whole time,
Hmm.
and I've got that relationship, and there's nothing going to break that.
Yeah.
So what I did is I set out to go and build those relationships, and time again in the commercial sales business, and residential with Rude, residential with American Standard, and then again in the financing world with more than just air conditioning, with roofers, solar, um, windows and doors, air conditioning, plumbers,
Uh-huh.
all that. And the whole business for me is, they're like, why should I buy from you? I can go get your competitor. You don't get me. It's like the cliche thing, right? But so for
Yeah, yeah.
15 years, I've made it my business. I've put the hat on every day, and I've said, all right, well, how do I help these contractors solve their problems and grow their businesses? Because if I can figure that piece out,
Hmm.
like they'll buy whatever I'm selling.
Yeah,
Doesn't even matter what I'm selling.
exactly. Totally. If you, it's the giver's gain
Yeah.
philosophy. Yeah. I
Yep.
agree 100%. And I love the video. I watched the videos. I went through the group and I was watching videos and they're really, really informative and awesome. And if people pay attention to them, they'll learn a thing or two for sure. That's,
Yeah, no, I see a ton of that in your podcast too. Like it's like giving people all that they could possibly need.
mhm.
And so then the question begs, like, so what else is there after you give away the whole game, give it away for free?
Yeah.
Well, so the consulting game has two things, right? There's customization
Mhm.
and accountability, right? Because all these ideas are great, right? But how does it fit into my business?
Yeah.
How does it fit in? So you can translate it. A lot of people can translate. Please do translate it. Use these things in your business. Grow. If you're having trouble translating, then maybe you need to speak with a consultant who
Yeah.
can help you to translate into your business, customize these ideas.
Hmm.
Then, how many of y'all know exactly what to do? How many of y'all
Exactly.
know what to do in the gym? How many of you know what to do to eat right? How many of you know what to do to take care of your family?
And
But
it's so funny that you mentioned the gym because like I'm guilty of the gym. Like you'll go there and you're like, well, that guy's doing that. Maybe that's what I should be doing. But you don't realize that that's part of his workout regimen.
exactly,
And it's the
exactly.
same way in business. Well, they're charging $89 for a diagnostic fee. That's what I should be charging. Well,
No,
that's not how it works. Well, where I used to work, we charged $125 for a capacitor. So that's what I'm going to charge. I'm just
mhm,
going to take their price book and use it. That's not how it works. You need to price it based off of your overhead, the way that you run your business. And, that the company where you came from, they may have a loss leader and you don't understand what a loss leader is. And if you go in thinking, I can do a tune up for $69 and you don't have to do anything other than the tune up for $69, you're going to be out of business working back for that company again, not very long from now. So yeah, totally. Like I love what you mentioned about the gym thing because like unless you have somebody training you, like you may be like maybe you need to do legs all one day, but you go in there, you see one person doing legs, you see the other person working on, you know, whatever.
exactly,
And then so you're bouncing back and forth and you have no rhyme or reason and then you get no results and then you're like, screw it. I don't
exactly
I
right.
don't know what I'm doing and I'm horrible. I'll never lose this weight. I'll never gain muscle type stuff.
Another analogy that I love a lot about business, and it would work in the gym too, is the analogy of a wheel, right?
Hmm.
And I have a wheel. It's symbol. I'm looking around for it right now because I want to try to show it to you, but it's symbolic to me because the wheel. I ride a mountain bike first of all as my exercise and recreation. I love to ride that bike, but the wheel itself has spokes, and each spoke is designed to support that overall wheel,
Hmm.
and each spoke is independently important. And if you're going to grow a business, meaning you're going to grow the circumference of that wheel, you have to grow the length of each spoke. And as you do
Yeah, that's
that,
a
it's
good point.
hard to do, right? Like, so you've got the production team, the guys that are going to go and get the work done. You got the technical team, the ones that troubleshoot things that go wrong. You got the duck guys. You got the sales guys. You have the admin team, and all these different spokes to the business are things that have to increase, or otherwise your wheel gets cattywampus. It's not true anymore. It creates a lot more friction and unwanted
Yep.
noise and just problems. So you have to figure out a way to essentially grow those spokes as
Together.
simultaneously as possible, even though it's
Yeah.
completely impossible.
Hmm.
You have to have some systems in place, pressure relief valves and things of that nature in growing a business. So like the average person that I see going into home services, right? They've either they've either come up through the trade, they've learned all the trade the whole way through and decide they want to own their own business,
Mm-hmm.
or they came through like a sales channel typically where they've gone out and they've pushed the revenue that creates growth. So then they get the idea that like, hey, I want to own the whole company, but they
Mm-hmm.
just really don't know the crux of like the technical side,
Yeah, I
right?
feel like the technician, like I was a technician, and if you've listened to a Red E Myth, you can fall into like you can't you sometimes don't get out of your own way. Michael
Exactly.
Gerber, he said it very well. There's the three parts: you have your manager, your entrepreneur, and your technician mindsets, and very few times is it that you have both of them, like all three of them, in the same person. So you really have to really hone those other senses, like your wheel. You mentioned, and uh, it, with us coming out of the field as technical people, sometimes I feel like you have to get out of your own way, and it's almost to the point to where like you might be better off if you have no technical knowledge at all. Because with Icebound, I purposely have never been in a van with Icebound. So when I came into the business, like I know technical knowledge. I'm very technically versed in the air conditioning and refrigeration, and uh, I will help somebody if they really get stumped. But I really want them to put forth the effort. I don't want to be their crutch. And so I haven't gotten in a van. I purposely hired a technician from day one. I've hired another technician, and that's how I've grown that business. Is being very purposeful, that like every single day, like Wednesdays are my podcasting days. So I don't do anything with Icebound unless it's a level 5 emergency. I don't work on Icebound on Wednesdays. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I are my networking days, and that's the days that I'll go in and I'll do meetings in town, and I'll do networking. And Mondays and Fridays are 100% Icebound days. And so like having that structure really is really important with the business. And it's very, very much so that like I don't get I don't get bogged down in the busy work, putting out fires, because that's and I've caught myself doing that in the past. Like I'm not perfect by any means. Like I'll definitely fall back into these crutches, but I try my best to be diligent and staying in that routine. So,
Yeah, I hear you 100% there because like it's that age old like working on the business instead of in the business.
yep.
And I can tell you, man, when I set out to go and meet these contractors that are on the cusp of being great,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the first lessons. It's like, okay, look, I get it. You know how to do this, right?
Yep.
But you need to pay people to do this, and you need to work
Exactly.
on the whole system, right? And so a
Exactly.
little bit of strategy goes a long way, to be honest with you, because a lot of times they see it from one paradigm, and that's the paradigm that they came up in, either the technical side or the sales side,
Yep.
and then they have this perspective of specifically like an admin or a dispatch. It's
Yep.
like this is the role there, and then they take that paradigm and go all the way over here and take this role, and they're like, holy crap, and they all of a sudden wrap their head around the entire business, and you never get that if you're always working in the business
Yep.
instead of working on the business.
It's funny because like I was in a class last week with Jay Abraham, and he one of the things he the guy's so full of knowledge, like make my head explode with full of
Yeah.
knowledge. But one of the things he was saying was like, if you pay yourself more than $15 an hour and you drive yourself to work, you're a fool. I was like, what? He was like, you drive for an hour and if you pay yourself more than $15 an hour, then you need to have somebody driving you to work. I was like, man, I'd feel horrible having like stroll up to work with my chauffeur and all this other stuff. Like, you know how much work you can be accomplishing by having someone else drive? Because driving is a menial, I mean, it's a useless task. And you just pay somebody to drive you $10 an hour, and they drive you everywhere you need to go, and you're working the whole time that you're driving. And it's like stuff like that. It's just like thinking outside the box. And like sometimes we as business owners try and be so cheap about certain things that could actually hurt us, when it's like
Mhm.
uh, people like Jay Abraham that's super successful. They're like, well, here's a little tip that I'll tell you, and then you're like, I don't really think so. But then he's like, okay, this guy's worth billions of dollars. Like maybe I should take his
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
especially, what's funny is I never actually started to take these folks' advice until I started paying them.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yep,
Until you take some dollars out of your wallet and
yep.
stick it on the table, you're just like, and then as soon as you pay, you're like, oh, well, this is what
Let
I
me
paid
try it.
for.
Yep.
And so then it works, and you're like, whoa, crap! I wish I would have done that without paying. Like, yeah, but somehow or another, it's the feng shui just doesn't. You got to pay. You got to have some skin in the game. I
And
talk
it's
about.
funny. It is funny because it's stuff like this, and you can go on YouTube and you can hear this great advice that people are giving.
Yes.
But until you take money out your wallet and you say, "Okay, I'm going to pay you for it," and you have some leverage, you have some skin in the game, and
Yep.
then it's like, "Okay, I'm going to do it because I paid you for it.
I
I'm
need
going to
my
at least try it."
ROI, baby, baby.
Yep, exactly. And then it's like it's almost like I'm going to do this to prove to you that it doesn't work. Like I want you,
Sometimes.
yeah. And so then it's like, um, and then they do it and it works, and it's like, told you, like you just got to do it.
Yeah. So I've seen that phenomenon happen over and over and over again, and I enjoy it when it does happen, man. And so you have 2 years in podcasting.
Yep, yep. 2 years.
And like if I go through this thing, man, you've talked about the gamut. Like
Yeah,
so
we go from like 1 month we had nothing but entrepreneurial suicide. So the suicide rate in as entrepreneurs and the stresses involved in being a business owner and manager and stuff like that. So we had physicians come in, um, and then we had 1 month where it was nothing but physical and mental health. So like making sure that you're working out and taking care of yourself and being diligent about that. So we had a bunch of physicians come in that were nothing but working on your physical side of things. And then, so we had one guy that was Mr. Universe come on the podcast. It was crazy. I mean, he was former Mr. Universe. We've had Mike McAllowitz. I actually became good friends with Mike McAllowitz after being on the podcast. He wrote the book called Profit First. That's what he's probably
yeah,
most famous about.
yeah.
Uh, and Toilet Paper Entrepreneur and Pumpkin Plan. And those are really good books. And then he has a book that's coming out next year. That's a really good book too. And he's really good when it comes to profit and being profitable in your business. And then Sean Van Dyke wrote a book called Profit First for Contractors. And so he's been on there. I mean, we really, like you said, we range the gamut. It's if it brings value, and I try to think outside the box too. So like Jesse Cole's a good friend of mine here in Savannah. Have you ever heard of Jesse Cole?
I haven't.
Okay, so Jesse Cole always wears a yellow tux. You'll have to Google him, the guy in the yellow tux. Okay, he started a baseball team here in Savannah. So backstory: the stadium was built in the 30s, and it's always been a AAA team. Always been a AAA team. So like, I think it was for a while it was the Pirates, or maybe that's Augusta Green Jackets. There was Boston, the Braves, something like that, and it was always a AAA team, a minor league team feeder into the major leagues. Well, they could only keep like 400 people on average in the stadium that holds 5,000 people. Or 4,000 people. And so every time you went there, it was like a ghost town. So Jesse comes in and he announces that he's going to start the Savannah Bananas. And everybody's like, no, that's the worst name ever. And not only that, it's only going to be a summer league team, and it's only going to be college, like the college kids that are playing. And 3 years in a row, he's only been doing it for 3 years, and 3 years in a row, he sold out the 4,000 seats, and there's a waiting list, and they're trying to get more seats in the
It's
stadium.
awesome.
And it's all about the experience and the fans experience. And like, his thing is whatever is normal in business, do the exact opposite. And that's kind of like, I've taken that philosophy with Icebound. So like, we're 100% remote, we're 100% paperless. uh, Everything that's normal about an air conditioning company, we probably do the exact opposite of it. And I've taken that from Jesse. And anyways, Jesse's been on the podcast, and Jesse and Mike, it's like a weird intertwined circle. Like, you start to meet one person and it snowballs into like, well, this person should be on your podcast. And then
Yeah.
it's really cool thing.
No, I mean that's something that like I aspire to have as well as that snowball effect. So for me, um, I don't know if I don't know if I told you this, right? But so I have this grand vision, and if you read Simon Sinek, the start with why, age
Oh
old
yeah.
start with why. My why is deeply rooted, and I'll start with a little bit of a story. And um, mostly when a homeowner has a really bad experience, like it just sucks from one side of the thing to the other, they'll grab any phone number they can call,
Hmm.
and they will complain to everybody. And having been on the distribution side of the business, I've received a lot of those phone calls. And I'm a pretty mild mannered guy, calm, cool, and collected, and I allow people to offload what they have to say. And most other people don't really want to have those phone conversations. So by default,
Yeah.
I end up receiving an ungodly amount of phone calls through my career where something so simple created this sheer terror, right? Like these people are just so mad and so frustrated and so upset about whatever has happened with them that they're calling everybody, and they're just calling, and they're MF this and up one side and down the other, and everybody they can just blast until they run out of energy, right? And that's just terrorism.
Hmm.
And so my intent, I intend to abolish home service terrorism.
Okay.
And that's a grand scheme thing, right? So it's multi-level, right? So at one level, the homeowners are educating themselves, and somehow or another, it's happening improperly. So mostly, what I see is creating this terrorism I'm speaking of is ignorance,
Yeah.
and ignorance is okay because we can solve that with education,
Yeah.
right? So we teach homeowners how to shop, how to understand. See, I have this thing, right? Like people are saying, hey man, you spend $1,000 a month on rent, you ought to be buying a house. You're gonna have something to show for your money. And people go into that and they're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go buy a house, and then they get into this house and they're strapped.
Yeah.
They have no extra leeway whatsoever, and then the air conditioner goes out,
Hmm. Yeah,
and
because
they have
90% of the time, whenever
no.
the person is selling the house, they're like, just patch it up, get it going, so I can get. And
And the
then
inspector's not actually
yeah,
doing a thorough air conditioner inspection. Just saying, hey, does it come on? Does it work? Does it work? It works. Everything works. All right, cool.
yep, yeah,
And
exactly.
so what happens when you buy a house is you become a general contractor, and
Hmm.
people don't understand that. They're like used to calling the landlord and saying, well, hey, uh, the air conditioner's not working, and they're like, okay, we'll send a maintenance guy over here, and it's done. So then now all of a sudden it's like, okay, how do I find somebody to help me with this? And they go to Google, then they find somebody who's at the top of Google, and that somebody at the top of Google hopefully actually has their best interest in mind. I've seen where they don't,
Yep.
believe it or not, right? And then
Oh yeah.
so they're just trying to sell them a new system and deny a warranty. All kinds of different things happen, right? So because of the ignorance of a homeowner, they get caught in a scenario where they think they need to buy a new machine, and they might not necessarily need to.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, the contractors are also guilty of ignorance, which
Yeah.
is okay because we can educate our way out of that. But so what happens a lot of times is I see them fighting this price game. I got the lowest price, lowest price, lowest price, lowest price. I'm going to get this job. And then finally, they get a job. But they got this job at a price that is literally not even possible to deliver what they said they're going to deliver
Yeah.
because they just kept cutting the price and cutting the price and cutting the price. And so a lot of times what they have is they're not doing the accounting, right? So they think they're making 40%, but they're really making like 3, if positive at all.
Yeah.
And they do the accounting on the front end, but they don't actually watch the numbers flow through, and then they run out of money, and this homeowner needs something that costs a couple few $100, maybe a thousand
Yep.
bucks, and they don't have the money because they
Yep.
sold it too cheap, and so they end up leaving the homeowner high and dry because they don't know what to do. And then I get the phone call,
Yep.
this fucking guy,
Hmm.
language,
Yep.
all this other stuff, blah blah blah,
Yep.
and on and on and on and on. And it's sheer terrorism, and it's bred mostly from ignorance and occasionally from malice, right? Like in
Yep.
I have a vendetta against those people who maliciously like try to,
Oh
get
yeah.
people, but I want to solve this ignorance piece with education. So I educate with Adkins advice. The idea is to educate homeowners on the concept that now you're a general contractor. Here's how that works.
That's cool.
Then on the other side of the academy is where I work with contractors to make sure that they do the right accounting and make sure they have the right sales process, the right marketing process, and the right processes to
Hmm.
grow their business. Because if they're doing it right and they do what they say they're going to do, and they're just trying to grow, but they hit a plateau,
Hmm.
then I see it as my duty to help them continue to grow because that's going to expand the wholesome contractor base that goes out and works with the homeowners, thus ridding us of this terrorism, as we call it.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is like something that it strikes a nerve with me is whenever, especially whenever I'm talking to someone and they're like, uh, they don't understand the difference between margin and markup.
That's right.
And they're saying, I have 50% margin in this job whenever they actually have 33% margin in the job because they've done the math completely wrong. And then when they back everything out, they've actually paid that homeowner to do the job
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
you making a profit. Like I think in our industry, I've read in several different places that the average business is, and this is the average business is making something like 3% profit.
Yeah,
That's
it's
scary. And
it's
for people to,
mostly a math thing.
yeah, 100%. And then people are like, you're ripping everybody off. You're selling a $7 contactor for $125. I was like,
Yeah.
and yet they're still making 3% net profit. Like there's definitely a disconnect here.
Well, but the issue at hand is that guy's not going to be there in 2 years when you need another service because he's
Yep.
not making enough money to pay the bills, and he
100%.
doesn't know it yet. He's just
Yep.
slowly sliding backwards to the point where it's like, it's hard to even tell it's happening. It's like, you put a frog in a bucket of water and you
Mm-hmm.
put it on the heat, and that frog will just sit there cozy until he's boiled and cooked and ready to eat frog legs,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you stick a frog into a bucket of boiling water, and that
You're gonna
somebody
jump
can
right out,
grow,
right?
jump right out of there.
Yep.
It's too hot in here, man. I ain't doing this.
Uh-huh. Totally.
So
And that's like and the thing about it is like that net profit. And Mike talks about it a lot in his book, and that's the checkbook balancing system. So if you have money in the checkbook in the checking account, then we're profitable.
that's
If you
right.
don't have money in the checking account, we're not profitable.
Yeah.
And a lot of people run their businesses that way.
Unbelievable, but true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievably true. But yes. Yeah, so that's what I do basically, man, is I go around and I visit contractors, and that part where we were talking about, that driving time. I've talked repeatedly about like getting an Uber instead of driving myself because I can sit in the back and work.
Yeah.
But what I've done instead, right? So my job is I'm a consultant, and I go and I visit contractors in their facilities in my geographic area. I sit down with them and we hammer out stuff. We've talked about CRMs, we've talked about marketing, we've talked about sales, we've done trainings, we've talked about P&Ls, we've talked about it all, right? But when I'm driving from one to the other and it's an hour worth of time, I was just like you. It's like the radio
Mm-hmm.
it gets old. The music is repetitive, so I started to listen to some podcasts, but I also threw in a lot of audiobooks,
Yeah.
a bunch of Zig Ziglar,
Yep.
things of that nature that would help me like to get a twofer. I'm driving and I'm getting educated.
Yep.
Well, so now I'm not here to tell you that I'm done being educated, but I also have this other issue in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going from first thing in the morning, I go out and I see a contractor, and then I get in a car and drive to see another contractor, and get in my car and drive to see another contractor, and then by the end of the day, I get home and I got a 5-year-old daughter and
Mm-hmm.
a 10-month-old son and a beautiful bride that are waiting there to hang out with me, and I got to go and take all these notes from my day and put them in the computer.
Yeah.
Well, dang, if that time I was driving, I could have got them notes into that computer, I would have that task done and I could just hang out. So I
Yeah.
started trying to develop this software where I can literally um, talk to a virtual assistant as I'm
Oh yeah.
driving, and it's going to ask questions like, "Who did you see?
Oh, that's
You
cool.
know, what did you talk about? Who did you eat dinner or lunch or
Yeah.
whatever?" And just like asking the questions and me verbally answering them, and then done, transcribe in the computer system.
Boom.
So I'm trying to be forward thinking in that nature to get more out of my drive time. But man, to have a driver, it's hard to bite down on that, man. But I'm
Yeah.
with you. Like, I pay somebody to do my yard. I pay
Mm-hmm.
somebody to handle the pool. I pay somebody to handle everything. Why wouldn't I pay somebody to drive me?
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense.
Unless
I'm
you
waiting for
really
a Tesla,
enjoy
like
driving.
a true self-driving
Yeah.
vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Take me everywhere.
But that's like they were talking about the cutting grass also.
Yeah.
And unless you really enjoy cutting your grass, don't cut your own grass. Like there's no
They
reason to
got
do it.
guys that can zip in, bing, 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 and done. And like I used to spend I had an acre of land
Mm-hmm.
in Olympia, Florida. out near the mountain bike trails, right? But so I used to spend like 6 to 8 hours every Saturday all summer long out there on that yard.
Yep.
And at first it was cool. I was having my headphones on, just riding
Mm-hmm.
around, getting a tan with a little straw hat, and it was cool. But after a while, I was like, man, that damn root right there is a pain, and I don't even want to mess with this. So I hired somebody. I paid him like $40 a cut.
Yep.
And they're in and out of there in 45 minutes.
Yep.
Like
And you don't
it's
have to deal with it.
absurd to spend 6 hours doing something that somebody else can do. I mean, think about what I can do in 6 hours. I
Yeah.
promise you, I'll produce more than $40.
I was going to say, can you do more than $40?
I
Because if you
promise
can
you.
do that,
And if not, I would promise you, I'll pay $40 to have 6 hours with my family.
yeah, totally.
I would easily make that trade. I don't want to sit on that damn tractor. I want to go and sit with them kids in that pool.
I was reading an article, I think it was actually yesterday, and it was the title was what caught me, and it said how the DIY mentality is killing us as entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
And as a business owner, it's like you start off at the bottom and you are everything, and then you can't get out of that mentality. It's that DIY, like, oh, I'm just going to fix this. And you could literally pay somebody $40 to cut your grass and save 6 hours. And that 6 hours, if you're billing out $200 an hour, I mean, boom, you just got a lot. There's a big difference between 6 times 200 versus
yeah.
$40, so and it's almost to the point where you're like, man, you should probably be charging more than $40, but I'm not going to tell you that because you do a good job and you charge $40.
Yeah, I mean, I try to bend that around this consulting game, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm a consultant on behalf of a business to business product. So here, I'll
Uh-huh.
work with you as long as you use my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these guys that are they're consultants in exchange for money, like their hourly bill rate is 5 grand.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
it's like, okay, well, how do I wrap my head around $5,000 for an hour? But the value that they provide in that hour, if I can take an hour and sit down with you, and then as a result of that hour, it produces an additional $250,000 in revenue
Yep.
at 10% GP. Did you get your money's worth for my $5,000 hour or not?
As long as you got that GP.
As long as the GP, right? Yeah, that's exactly right. Is if you're not making the money, then the money's making you.
That pass through profit. And that's something that I talk about some on the podcast too, is that the ego with pass through revenue is like, I think it was actually on the last episode that I released, we were talking about uh, consumers purchasing equipment and then paying the contractor
Oh
to
yeah.
actually install it. And that's a big no-no in our industry. Like, that's like,
Oh yeah.
everybody's like, oh no, heck no, consumer can't purchase something, that's my money, that's my markup. But some people, like, especially the smaller teams that don't have the cash flow, it's just a pass-through number that ties up cash. So if you're really a small company, and someone else purchases
Let Amazon sell
4,000,
it and go
yeah,
do the install.
yeah, and then you still don't charge $500 to install it. Like, charge what you're supposed to charge to install
Yeah.
it, and but you don't have that pass through money. But then you don't have, like, okay, the end of the first year I generated $1 million in revenue. Like, you don't have that number anymore because you don't have that five
Mhm.
thousand dollars worth of
But that's
material.
a vanity
So,
metric, man. That is
100%,
absolutely a vanity metric. It's not worth
100%.
the paper it's printed on.
Yep.
Because it's what it really comes down to is what is the gross profit of the company? What is the profit? P and L, as I call it, P and L all the time. It's profit and loss. And if it's loss and you thought it was profit, we have a big issue,
Yeah.
right? And if it's profit and it's not as much profit, then okay, we got some tweaking to do. But if you were thinking you were in the black, but you're in the red, which happens a
A lot.
lot,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so that's the thing, man, is when you come up into the industries from the trades and you don't actually have specific training, you need to go and hire somebody to help you with that piece.
Yeah,
It's
there's a lot of the manufacturers that will do it if you just
yeah.
ask for it.
I've
And then
been the
you
guy.
have, yeah, but you have to do it. Like,
Hmm.
I've gone to those classes at, like the local train rep,
Yep.
and it'll be me and two other people. Like, there's
Unbelievable.
30 or 40 train dealers, and they're all complaining about profit and not having enough employees and training and all this other stuff. And you're like, where are you? Like, there's this huge conference room. They are putting it on. They're paying for our lunch. They're not charging us for this. It's
That's the
part of
problem.
our program. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Not
That's the
charging for it.
no
Yeah.
skin in the game, no show up.
But see, like
I'll
with
hang out
train,
at 7-Eleven for this
with
one.
train, there's a we have the marketing fee or whatever
Yeah.
it is, and people complain about it. It's like 2% or whatever it is. It's just built into my pricing,
Yeah.
and they're like, man, that marketing fee is just ridiculous. Like you have to pay for that, and like I'm not even using their marketing. Yes,
That's
you
why
weren't
it's
in the
paid for.
class.
You're not
You
using it.
paid for me to go to that class.
Yeah.
So
Well, so that's the thing, man, is I, from the distributor standpoint, for the first like massive chunk of my career, I was sitting in on all those classes 3 and 4 times, sitting with some of the big names who came in, Wayne
mhm.
Atkins. There's tons of
Yeah,
different, people that have came in. And as I was working for the distributors, man, we provided a plethora of tools.
yeah,
And I became one of the, I don't want to call myself a tool,
yeah,
but like
yeah, yeah,
as a consultant, business to business sales, I was the value,
yeah,
and
totally.
I still am. I still am the value. It's because most of the competition, man, these guys in these sales reps jobs, they don't think outside the box. It's like, okay, I'm going to teach you about this equipment and how to sell this equipment, and
Yeah,
it's like, but your paradigm is one-sided, and it's so deep seated with like the equipment. Like all I can do is call you and ask you about equipment. There's no other value there.
right.
Now you're exchangeable with the next commodity,
Yeah.
right? So
There's
you got to
no,
get
yeah, that's perfect that you said that because like with me, my train rep, he's knowledgeable. And if I have a question, I can go to him. And like that adds value
yeah,
to versus just being because literally with us being paperless and we're so much on the internet, I use the train comfort site to order all my equipment. Like I
yeah,
don't call anybody. I don't do any of that stuff. So if you didn't have value somewhere else, you literally wouldn't have value to me. Like if you didn't have education value, if you didn't have other stuff, and we don't advertise. There like I could be wrong, but I don't think it's even on our website. We don't advertise what brand we're installing until the
yeah,
day we're putting it in. And we're selling our product. So at that point, like if I didn't have a relationship with you personally as the vendor, there's no reason for me to sell your product other than like if a customer specifically requests it. And that's the one reason why I won't sell one of the brands that they offer here locally because the supply house, it's a big name brand and the people that sell it they
Joe
go
Price.
off the name, but that is there's the relationship is not there. It's just, you're a number. You just like push right through there unless you're like the big guys in town. They don't really have a relationship with you, and so I was like, I have no use for you. Like that's none at all. And then I starting out Icebound last year, um, we were the small team, and we still like uh, it was like they treated us like we were the biggest team there. And it was just like there was no difference between it. And so like the TM that I have, it's like, okay, like it's the relationship that I built with you that I value.
Yeah. Yep, and that's it. That's the important thing, man. Is most of the time, when you're coming up, you hear about it's not about what you know, it's about who you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you start to realize that more and more. I started to realize it more and more as like things started to shift, right? Like at first, somebody would leave a company, and you'd be like, all right, well, I guess that person's gone now, and then all of a sudden they pop up somewhere else. You're like, oh, okay, and then it's like good that you were still on good terms.
Yeah.
So I learned at an early age not to ever like cut ties with anybody,
Yeah.
unless if it was an intentional like, okay, you're a crook and I don't want to be
Yeah. You're cancer. I don't want to
like.
deal with you. Yeah.
But so I mean, what when you see the way that this industry works, like it's what goes around comes around, and what I see from my perspective is opportunity if people are willing to collaborate.
Mm.
And so what I mean by that is exactly the purpose behind the group. I created the group because I could see that the solar contractors had a ton of value to offer to a roofer, or a plumber had a ton of value to offer to an AC guy, or any of those matches,
Mm.
and different opportunities to introduce your customer base to a concomitant service provider
Mm.
and improve your return on your marketing spend, make more from your relationship under a condition. You got to really be able to trust the guys you're referring the work to.
Yes.
That's the biggest key. That's the thing that
Yep.
holds most people away from saying, okay, well, I'm going to refer you over here to my roofing partner, because
Mm.
they don't want to get into a partnership with somebody that they don't know, how to anticipate what to anticipate.
Yeah, that
I look at
integrity.
that as my role. I'm
Mm,
going to vet these contractors. I'm going to see how they operate. I'm going to see what capacity they have to take on additional work and introduce them to the network and say, okay, these guys are here. They have capacity to do this. They have this reputation. If you've got any referrals, bring it in here, and then set up an agreement where, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, or
yeah.
whatever it is. The issue at hand is this, right? Like I've always asked, who do I know that I need, right? So I need some paint done. Oh, hey babe, can you see if anybody we know has a good painter? Hey babe, can you see if anybody we know has a good fence
Yeah.
guy?
Yeah.
Fence is
Yeah.
busted. Hey, anybody know a good window guy? Because that window is cracked right there. And so it's always about who do you know,
Mm-hmm.
and if you can train them to come back and say, okay, well, um, you did a really great job, and you always have these good referrals, then you never lose that relationship.
Yeah.
Because part of it is staying in front of people, because the marketplace is fierce and your
Yeah.
competition is trying to take your business. So the more frequently that you're able to communicate with them, the more they remember you.
Yeah, and the fine line there is communicating without spamming. Like that,
Yeah.
that's the one that I try and juggle. It's like I want to be in front of you, but I want to add value, and I don't want to be spammy. Um, and that's like
I'll tell you a
creating that
secret.
engagement. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you a secret. It does not matter how often you email them. You can email them 76 times a day. You follow a pattern that Gary Vee outlined: give, 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 ask.
Yeah,
So never once in there did you hear me jamming anything down anybody's throat. It's here's value, here's value, here's value, and then oh by the way, home service pros, if you're interested in consulting,
hmm
shoot me a DM and we'll talk about it. I'll give you a free session, right? Like, and then if you're interested,
that's good.
I'll talk to you, right? And then there's nobody here got offended by me saying that. And if they're
Mm-mm.
not interested in talking to me, they ain't going to text me.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do text me, and then maybe that's an opportunity for me to help them, and so I'll take that. But
Yeah,
if you go give, 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 ask, they never get offended.
yeah,
And part of it is, man, I get probably at least 60 emails a day.
mm,
And if you're too far down on the thing, you might not get seen at all. So
yeah,
to have one, two, three, four emails stacked in that 60, chances of getting seen are a little bit higher. But if you're
yeah,
giving me content, chances are I might go looking for it, especially so when you start to see that email open rate increase for a particular user, that might indicate that they are primed for an offer because they're starting to shop, right? Because they might not open the AC guy's emails
mm,
at all, but they don't delete them because they're like, yeah, that's good stuff. I'll keep it coming.
yeah.
Then they start opening them. It's like, okay, I need to get my maintenance done. Let me see if I can get this guy's phone number.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Let me make an offer here.
Yeah, that's
Right?
the same that I do with Russell Brunson. Like he sends out tons of emails, but I
Yeah.
don't delete them. I don't open them, but I don't delete them. They're just in my. I have so I automate everything. So like in my inbox, it automatically notices if it is a. I have a rule set up in Outlook that if Russell Brunson comes in, it automatically sends it to Russell Brunson's folder,
Yep.
and so like they're not opened, but they're still there, and I
Yeah.
don't delete them, and I know where
Frank,
they are when I want them.
I got a lot of guys like that set up. Right? So Frank Kern stuff. And
Yeah.
why you think I want Frank Kern's emails?
You just the value.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because I'm getting ready to design email campaigns myself, right? So if
yeah.
I got
So
somebody who's emailing me, I can go and say, okay, well, here's this date stamp, that. Oh, look at the sequence right here. His entire email
yeah,
thing is now in this folder.
and you can
So
watch how he did it and just mimic the exact same thing.
exactly right. Because if it works for him, it might work for me. So you never want to underestimate the value of collecting data, even though you feel like, man, dang, I don't want any more emails come in. Okay, well, just automate it over here to this file, and when you feel like you want something from there, now you can go look for their most recent
Yeah,
offer, and
totally.
so
Yeah. Ari Mizell. Have you ever heard of Ari Mizell? He
yeah,
wrote a book called Replaceable Founder, and it's all about automation. Is a really good stuff, and that's all about.
replaceable founder. I'm gonna get that.
Yeah, it's a short read. I have one here somewhere, but it's a good book, and it talks about using stuff like that and Zapier and
Yep,
automating things and just getting the like stuff. Just take yourself out of the equation. It's mindless task that you don't need to be doing. Just
right.
automate it and be done with it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, look, we, believe it or not, have been on this podcast for,
Oh,
well,
wow.
a little bit. And I'm sure that we could continue on and on and on and on and on.
Absolutely.
What I don't want to do is go beyond
Yeah, yeah.
about another few more minutes.
Yeah,
So
totally.
what I'll do is I'll say I'm fairly certain that we could continue on, but
Mhm.
what I want to try to do is I want to try to get a roundtable with multiple participants in this space. Tommy Mello,
Yeah.
some of these other people that are in our space. So if you will, let's work together and see
Yeah,
if we can put something together that is little bit more, maybe more powerful because of the breadth of experience that we bring to the group. And then we'll
totally.
also plan it to be a good question and answer, because I was watching the news feed here on Facebook, and I don't know if mine times out or something didn't work right, but there was only a comment or two, which could be a
The
little
time of
early.
morning, too.
I've not done an early morning podcast yet, so what's possible is that they'll see it when they're waking up, and we'll get a lot of views and comments during the day. So you're in the group.
Yeah,
Just if you see some comments down in there,
totally.
reach back out, and hey, if you guys are interested, can you also drop a link to your podcast right here in the
Absolutely.
comment?
Yep,
And
I'll
then
add that.
definitely check out Tersh podcast here. It's called Service Business Mastery,
Hmm.
and it is a great podcast, great information, plethora of stuff that you could use for your business.
Appreciate
And
it.
give him a review too, because he needs some help with his review game. He only got
I do.
120. Yeah.
I know. And the thing is, like, I ask for them all the time. On the iTunes, I got up like 100 something. On the other podcast catchers, there's a couple of them. And then I have one bad review. It was a 1 star because the last year I took a month off because we were doing a nonprofit here locally, and so I didn't release any content for that month. And he was like, "Great content when it's out." And I'm like,
Yes.
"Oh,
Well,
what?"
so that's not a bad review actually. So
Yeah,
one thing that I do, and I'll give this tip as well for home service pros. I intentionally go and find people's bad reviews, because you
yeah,
can learn a
totally.
lot in
Hmm.
somebody's bad reviews. But so yeah, it's a great podcast. Give them a review on the thing. And so here's another thing I'll tell you. Sometimes you got to bribe people, right?
Yeah, I
So
know.
we get your reviews up over 500 by like giving away. One giveaway I love is a television, man, because you can go get a TV for cheap, like a 55 flat screen, TV for $300 or something. Then run a promo and say, hey, look, everybody that does a review during this time frame and this time frame for the podcast can be entered for a chance to win the TV. And then just promote the TV and then watch it pile up, man.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. Cool. I
I look
appreciate
forward. I look forward to winning a TV from you one day soon.
it. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I'll reach out to Tommy though. Tommy's a friend of mine, and we'll get some other people in a round table, and we'll get to.
Yeah, I talked to Tom. I have there's live with Tommy in the group here. He's definitely
Sweet.
down. There's I've done a few others in here, and I've got a few more people that have got like intentions, like Gene Slade and
Yeah, Gene.
Joe Crescera. There's a lot of guys out there that. So one thing I like to try to do is diversify beyond just air conditioning, but there's a lot of personalities in that air conditioning space
Yeah,
too, that have a lot to value that you can translate easily to other trades. So I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak.
true. Very true. Very true.
All right, man. Well, hey, we've been on here for a long time, so I'm going to end this live. Anybody
Cool, man.
that wants to chat with either Tersh or myself about business, we love to do this. I don't get enough time to chat about business, man. So hit us up in the DM or down in the comments below, and we will hit you back. And thanks for hanging out, man. This has been fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions or concerns about anything that was mentioned in the podcast episode, please feel free to reach out to me, Tersh at icebound.us, and I'll be more than happy to answer it or at least figure out who we can speak with to get the answer for you. And then if you found value in this episode, please share it. Share it with a friend, family, someone else who may find value in it. And don't forget to like and review it. So subscribe, hit the review button, share. Actually, share a few words in your review. That would be super helpful. But cool. With that being said, Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you again next week on the Service Business Mastery Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves.